Starting off, we've got a question from Dr. Rachel. In terms of what are the pros and cons of relocating to Switzerland? So maybe if we could go to Jan first, and you could let us know what your thoughts are.
So, in terms of pros, there's a fairly clear one. Switzerland is regularly voted as the best place to live for expats and locals regularly by several different studies. And that is reinforced by an incredibly high quality of life in terms of the salary that you can expect to earn while in Switzerland, to the quality of social and public services. And the natural environment as well has an excellent benefit in that regard, which means that you can expect to have a healthier and arguably better lifestyle in Switzerland than you would expect in other countries. This is reinforced by an excellent school system. The Swiss school system is very proficient. We will be talking about the school system, of course, in the future, so I'll just leave it at that. And of course, international schools are very competent as well. Public transport, it's a very popular topic on I Am Expat, but Switzerland is famous for having one of the densest and most efficient public transport networks in the world. And that means that people who can't drive, like me, can easily see the different parts of the country with ease. In fact, during 2020, during the pandemic, the rules here were such that you could travel, but not too far. And with the public transport networks, I saw parts of the country that you would never really expect to see. And it was very, very pretty and an excellent boost to what was quite a difficult time. And finally, in terms of pros, the climate. Switzerland is quite cold during the winter, but that means that there is a lot of snow up in the mountains. So if you're like skiing, hiking and things like that, that's very beneficial. Then in the summer, it goes up to 25 to 28 and sometimes even into the 30s, which means that you are able to go for a swim in the local lake and that kind of thing, which is all, I suppose you could round that all up into quality of life that you understand. The cons, I'm sure Alexander will agree with me here, but the cost of living in Switzerland is very high. I'm sure tourists who come to Switzerland will be surprised and sometimes shocked by how expensive things are, which makes it all the more important that if you're looking to live here in Switzerland, you need to have a job that can guarantee you a positive quality of life in Switzerland. Accommodation costs in the major cities are extremely high, especially in Zurich and Geneva. Especially as a single person, it's difficult to find accommodation at a competitive price. The immigration processes, which I will discuss in a moment, are very restrictive in terms of people who aren't from the European Union, as I will explain later, such as job requirements for residents and other factors like that. And finally, the language barrier is an issue. Occasionally, we will once again speak about this later, but it's important to bear in mind that there is going to be, once you leave the larger cities, there will be a language barrier that if you don't know one of the languages, you will have to overcome. And then, Alexander, what would you say is your pros and cons?
Yeah, Jan, you discussed a lot. So I almost do have nothing to say, but yeah, one of the pros is that every canton within Switzerland has its own rules and also cost of living, of course. So you can also look at the taxes, of course, which is better for you, but also how much a home costs and also the language. Canton of Zurich is quite international, so a lot of people speak their English. You can be next to the expats and also go to networking events there. But there are also much more old school countryside places in Switzerland, if you prefer that to live, which is also cheaper than Zurich, for instance. Yeah, of course, the cons, the cost of living. It's and of course, it's also the best to learn German or French when you're in the German or the French cantons. So that's shortly about the pros and cons.
Perfect. And I think that kind of, we've also got a cost of living calculator that we'll pop a link to in the chat as well, that's on our website. And we also offer out an online market update, which helps to kind of compare salaries, that we can post a link to as well. That can be really helpful for people making that relocation change.